chains will break as broken hearts declare His praise. For who can stop the Lord Almighty? Our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles. Every knee will bow before Him.
welcome. This is Pastor Errol Williams here from the Church of God of Prophecy in Wembley. Once again, I'm so honored to have the opportunity and the privilege to share with you the living Word of God. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited that you're here with me tonight. We're looking at probably the most difficult parable that Jesus ever gave. Most theologians said this is the most challenging one of them all. So we're going to have a look at the most challenging parable that Jesus ever gave. And that's in Luke chapter 16, verse 1 to 13. So maybe you want to get your Bible out if you don't already have it before you. Luke chapter 16, verses 1 through to verse 13. Don't forget, we are streaming quite a few places at the moment. And I always say that the best place to be is on Zoom. You get the opportunity on Zoom to use the telephone system. Just put your hands up or indicate. A text will do. Or just put your electronic hand up and I will see it pop up on my screen. And I'll give you access to speak. If you want to challenge me because you believe that I'm not speaking truth and you don't want no one to know who you are, that's the reason why I provided the text facility. So you can text me. I will read your text, but I won't call your name. So if you are a bishop and you don't want to challenge me, a pastor, you don't want to challenge me, maybe you are who you are and you don't want no one to know, then just text me and I'll be delighted to respond. I love feedback. It's one of the things that I thrive on. Feedback tells me that you're there, you're listening, and it also tells me areas in which I can improve. I'm not yet perfect. I do not have perfect knowledge. There are lots of things that I am lacking in terms of knowledge. So I'm willing to receive feedback, willing to learn, appreciate everyone's contribution. Let us pray and then let's head over to the chat room and see who is here, and we go from there. So let's pray. Father, thank you so much for your word that you've given to us through the prophet, through the apostle, via the moving of your Holy Spirit. And so, Father, as we look at your word tonight, I pray that you will give us illumination, give us understanding, give us the opportunity to see what you are saying so that we can make improvements and adjustments where necessary in our own lives and the lives of others. Thank you for those who are here online and those that will watch thereafter. Pray that your presence will be in the home of everyone who's watching. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, once again, thanks again for joining me. And I'm just going to head over now to the chat room and just to see who are here with us at this moment in time. Well, let me start with, say, Taya Hughes. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you being here. And those iPad, don't know who your name is, but welcome nonetheless on Zoom. Appreciate your presence with us tonight. Don't forget, if you have any questions or comment, please go ahead, put those in the chat room. For those who are watching on Twitch, I do not monitor that particular chat room as yet. As soon we'll get through to doing so. But if you're there on Twitch, welcome. If you're there on the website as well, at crgop.com, thank you so much for joining us. It's best to go into one of the chat rooms so that you can participate if you choose to. I want to say welcome to Natasha McLean there on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us. Brother Clive Williams, my namesake. Blessings to you, sir. Christine Faulkner, my neighbor. Bless you, bless you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight in the mighty name of Jesus. Clive, where is Yahweh be magnified? I need you to to put that in for us. Sister Claudia B, first of all, greetings to you. Thank you so much for being with us today. Pastor Catherine Moraine, and to your husband, thank you so much for joining us, and the pleasure is mine to have you in the house with us tonight. Deacon Stanley Golding, Deaconess Shirley Golding, thank you for joining us. as well tonight. And my other neighbor just across the pond, Jamaica, Hermin Wade. Thank you so much for joining us. It's such a pleasure to have you with us. And indeed, to God be the glory. Greetings to you and to those around you. If there's anyone I haven't mentioned because your name is not there, please accept my appreciation for being here tonight. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Well, we're going to get straight into our studies tonight. We're looking at Proverbs chapter 16, the parable of Jesus, known as the parable of the dishonest manager. That's it, Brother Clive. Yahweh be magnified. My favorite phrase in the scriptures at the moment. Yahweh be magnified. All right. So let's get going then in the scriptures. And as I mentioned before, this is one of the, if not the most difficult parable to to share. I would have loved to have skipped over this one, but I thought, don't do that. It wouldn't be wise to skip a parable. So I decided to tackle it on. I spent this morning sharing it with Sister Minister Jackie Tate and struggled with verse 9. So you may want to look at verse 9 for the time being, and I'd love to get your thoughts on it and, share it with us. I want to say welcome to Jennifer. Thank you so much for joining us. Jennifer Gale, blessings to you and to your family as well. All right. Let's look at this parable then. As I said, it's a tricky one. You may not like my explanation, but who knows? My explanation may be okay, may be correct. There's a lot of thoughts on it throughout history, throughout the centuries, as to what Jesus meant, especially verse 9. And remember that we are going through, the parables of Jesus. We've already been through all these parables that you see here. Quite a few of them, by the way. So we've gone through all these 15 parables that you see on the list here. So I must say I've learned quite a lot from these parables. Then we looked at these, and so we are now on the dishonest, right here, the dishonest manager. We may get a chance tonight. I doubt it very much whether we will get a chance to look at the rich man and Lazarus. I like to do at least 2 parables before we close, but if I only get through one, then that would be it. Last week we looked at the prodigal son, probably one of the greatest literature ever to be transcribed, actually. It's just so powerful and so beautiful, the parable of the prodigal son that we looked at last week. So tonight we want to focus our attention on the dishonest manager. Now, one of the things that I always like to think about is whether or not the parable of Jesus, and there are so many of them. I think I have around 59 parables here. Some say it's less, some say it's more, but I have around 59. And if you notice, there is none in the book of John, for example. There's none in the book of John. John doesn't focus on any of the parables. It's mostly the synoptic gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And that is amazing. So I always wonder, are these parables real? Did they occur sometime in history, or are they fictitiously made up by Jesus? There are those theologians who believe that they were made up. I tend to think, I have no proof, however, this is just my own private thinking, I tend to believe they did occur. I tend to believe that they are real occurrence throughout history, but it doesn't really matter whether it is or not. That doesn't really matter at all. So in this parable then of the dishonest manager, Jesus tells, and he said also unto his disciples. It's interesting, it tells us who he is addressing. He's addressing his disciples. How many of them is there? We're not told. We do know that there were more than 12 disciples. Okay, there were people around Jesus that were not named in the 12, but they were there all the time. We saw that when, Judas was being replaced by Matthias in the book of Acts, and it says we choosing from those who were there all the time. And so there were other disciples around. There's quite a lot. In one case, they mentioned around 500. So there was a lot of disciples. There were the 12 that were chosen specifically for specific reasons, but there were lots of disciples around. So he spoke unto his disciples. That's who he's addressing. He said, there was a certain rich man which had a steward, and the same was accused unto him that he had wasted his goods. It's interesting, in this parable, we are not told the names of the characters. We are only told a certain rich man which had a steward, and the steward was accused that he had wasted his goods. That's a very serious charge, by the way. He's a steward and he's wasting his goods. It's kind of, if you look back at the previous parable of the prodigal son, that the young son had wasted the goods as well on righteous living. So now we are learning of another person, this is a steward in this case, who is given responsibility to manage this rich man's estate, as it were. And he's accused that he had wasted his goods. We're not told the manner in which he had wasted his goods, but he was accused nonetheless of wasting the goods. Whether it was mismanagement, stealing, we are not told. Some say that he really wasn't stealing it. And if he did steal it, then he would have had something to fall back on. You will see that later. So it's not a matter of stealing the goods, but he was not managing it well. So he called him and said unto him, how is it that I hear? So the way that the rich man found out is that he heard this of him. So he asked him, give an account of thy stewardship, for thou mayest be no longer a steward. So I think that he's not yet sacked, actually, in my view. He's not yet sacked. Some say he's already sacked. But I don't think he's yet sacked the way I read this. He says, give an account of thy stewardship. In other words, I've heard, and I think this is the correct thing to do. I have heard that you're wasting my goods. So I need you to give an account. For you mayest be no longer steward in my affairs. So I want you to give an account. It's interesting because in the business world, I had, for example, a manager that we were dismissing. We were sacking him. And, it's interesting. Let me go back first. There was a manager that we were not sacking him, but we had heard that he had mismanaged or wasted the goods of the company. He was accused of that. It was brought to my attention. I'm the chairman of the organization. This company is turning over £1 million in grants. We are servicing over 250 trainees per year in computer technology, information technology, and so on. And we had a meeting, and we brought him into the meeting and says, what is this that we have heard? We have heard this of you. Now give an account of your management or your stewardship, for you mayest be no longer a manager among us. And he went away and he gave an account to which we were satisfied. However, on another occasion, we wanted to dismiss a manager from his duties, and he was not aware that we were going to dismiss him. We walked into his office, and two of us, myself, the chairman, and another, and we said to him, look, the directors have met, and we have come to the conclusion that you will no longer be manager among us. So therefore, we are dismissing you from your employment as of today. And therefore, we're asking you in our presence, and we appointed a particular person that would escort him off the building. So in other words, he couldn't make any more further damage. He couldn't do any damage to the business because he's being watched to clear his desk and leave the building. And that's exactly how it's done in the business world. But in this case, the manager is given, this steward is given an opportunity to give an account. He's not summarily dismissed, because I think this is correct, because I've heard, I haven't got the proof of yet, I have heard that you are mismanaging my goods. So give an account. Then the steward said within himself, what shall I do? What shall I do? For my Lord taketh away from me the stewardship. That's what seems to be happening, and that's what's going to happen, it seems. For my Lord taketh away from me the stewardship. I cannot dig. To beg, I'm ashamed. You know, it's interesting because, you know, when he says he cannot dig, it may well be that, you know, if you look at it literally, he may not be in a position to dig. It may be of his age or whatever, whatever. Or maybe I cannot dig might be a term to say, well, he cannot do any manual labor work in that capacity, just not able to, for whatever reason. And he said, to beg, I'm ashamed. And I think this indicates to me that the fact that he has to beg, probably that he hadn't got any pension. Back in those days, you didn't have a pension, did you? He didn't have anything to fall back on. So that's the indication that we'd use to say, well, he wasn't really stealing from the company, but he was mismanaging the resources nonetheless. Sister Daphne, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Blessings to you. Welcome to you as well. So he's losing his job, or he's already lost it, which is the debate, but he has to give an account anyway. So he has resolved that I can't dig, and to beg, I am really ashamed. And I think it's interesting actually, because, you know, begging on the street, and this is one thing that I just wanted to make a mention of, it's not really easy for people on the street to really beg. You know, to beg for food, to beg for, you know, a pound or two here and there. And sometimes people look down on those people that are begging, and we don't know their circumstance. We don't know how they got there. And sometimes we judge them and we say, look at him, he's a young man, he can work, or he's a young woman or so, and look, he looks fit and so. We don't know the circumstance. I certainly don't know. I could make a lot of assumptions to justify my position, but I don't know. I don't know what the position is. And sometimes we judge them and we put them down or whatever, but it's a very, very difficult thing to do actually, unless you're doing it crookedly. In other words, you're doing it as a means of trying to trick people into giving to you when you're really not really, you know, a beggar or poor. But to beg on the streets is not easy. I don't think it is at all. It's a very challenging and difficult thing, especially when you probably have to beg 50 people before you can get £5, or maybe that's a lot of money to, you know, in terms of 50 people, but it's really, really a challenging thing. So he looks at it, I'm ashamed. So I am resolved what to do. He says in verse 4, look at verse 4. So he says in verse 4, I am resolved what to do, that when I am put out of the stewardship, that when I am put out, he's not yet put out, it seems. He says, I am resolved what to do, that when I am put out of the stewardship, they may receive me into their house. So he is conjuring up a particular plan that may be of assistance to him later. So he says, when I'm put out of the house, they may receive me. So he called every one of his Lord's debtors unto him, and said unto the first, how much owest thou unto my Lord? How much do you owe him? And he said, 100 measures of oil. And he said unto him, take thy bill and sit down quickly. You got to see that word quickly. Sit down quickly and write 50. Now let's stop there for a moment, because this is interesting. His Lord had debtors. We're not told how many, but we notice that Jesus in the parable only speaks of 2 of them. And there may be others. We're not told how many more there are. But all we are told is that he called every one of his Lord's debtors. Well, only 2 is mentioned in the parable. But 100 measures of oil. Now, we don't know what kind of trading was going on, so we can't draw any conclusion in terms of how he came to owe him that much. But 100 measures of oil is a lot. That's a lot. 100 measures of oil. I think someone has done some calculation as to how much that would be. I have no idea personally. But I do know that 100 measures of oil is a lot. And he has cut it by 50%. I mean, this is incredible what he has done here. He has cut it by 50%. I mean, if I was the person that owed 100 measures of oil and it was cut in half, I'm paying it quickly. Now, we are not given any more information here by Jesus. How things are here. He owes 100 measures of oil. He asked him to write 50. Then said he to another in verse 7, and how much owest thou? And he said, 100 measure of wheat. So he told him a similar thing. He says, and he said unto him, take thy bill and write 80. So he has cut that by 20%. 80 is 4 times 20, which is 80. So he has cut one by 50%, and he has cut one by 20%. And the idea of doing that is so that he will have somewhere to go to if he gets sacked, or when he gets sacked, whichever one it is. And so those individuals that he had given the reduction to probably will be obligated to putting him up if and when he gets dismissed from his job, because he has nowhere else to go. It seems as if that he lives on the premises, and when he is sacked, if he's sacked, where will he go? He has nowhere to go. And I think this is an interesting one, actually, because as a pastor, my Bishop T.F. Pullman, once said something to me. He said, do not put your trust, your faith, and your confidence in the church to look after you when you leave, because the church is not in a position to do so. And that is interesting, because not all churches are in that position. There are some churches that look after their ministers very, very well. For example, I went to a facility once. We were having a retreat, and I thought this facility was kind of interesting. It was different, and it felt strange. So there was a lady behind the counter, and I said to her, what kind of a place is this? And when she spoke to me and told me, I was absolutely shocked. She said, this is the place that I think it's the Roman Catholics use to send those who retire, and also nuns who have retired from their service, to spend the rest of their lives for free. I mean, I was absolutely blown away with that. This is the place that is provided for those who have served the people, the church, with their life, and they get somewhere at the end of their lives to stay. I think that is amazing. Now, not every church can do that because, as you know, most churches are breakaway churches anyway. We're all breakaway churches apart from the Roman Catholic Church. And if you don't believe me, I'll prove that to you. All of our churches are breakaway churches, really. I mean, if you look at it, they're all breakaways. And most breakaway church does not have the infrastructure to be able to look after pastors and ministers, after they have actually retired and so on. There is not that facility to do that. So this is something that is really interesting, because sometimes ministers like myself, we give 100 and so let's start again. Ministers like myself give 200% of our time and our effort in serving the church and the people. But we don't have the resources and the facility to be able to look after those individuals when they retire. So we always advise ministers, make room for your future, because the church is not in a position to do so. And I think that's good advice. That's good advice to every pastor, to every minister, to every leader. Make plans for your future. The interesting thing about the Church of God of Prophecy and regards to ministers like myself, we are only employed for 2 years. It's a rolling contract in a sense. It's only 2 years that we are employed for. And, our, leader who makes the appointments can actually dismiss us as and when is necessary in that 2 year, after that 2 years is up, let's say. So we're only given 2 years. So the way that the Church of God of Prophecy works is that every 2 years, Bishop Tedroy makes new appointments. And that's the way it goes. It used to be 1 year, by the way, and back then you didn't know whether or not you were going back to your local church or not. Things have changed or improved a little, and that's just the way it works at the moment. So this man had made no provision for the future. There was no provision whatsoever, and so he's stuck. Okay, so he made, he then obviously told these two men, write 50, write 80, that would help to secure. Now, look at verse 8. And the Lord commended the unjust steward. Now, this is the owner, the rich man. The Lord commended the unjust man because he had done wisely. Some versions said he had done shrewdly. He had done wisely. And then Jesus said, for the children of this world are in their generation wiser than the children of light. Let's stop there for a moment before we come to verse 9. I want to say welcome to Jordan Williams. How are you doing, sir? Hope all is well. Great to have you join us tonight. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Sister Elaine Joseph, blessings to you and to your household. Thanks for joining us tonight. So, how does the story go? It's like this. A rich man, had a steward. He heard that he was wasting his goods, so he called him and says, you're going to have to give an account for what you've been doing. So he goes out and realizes that he's in problems because his master will put him out and he has nowhere to go, nothing to do. He can't dig and he's too ashamed to beg. So he thought to himself, what should I do? So he gathered all his Lord's debtors and began to make deals with them. Now, it's interesting what some commentators say is that, the fact that the the Lord or the rich man commended him is an indication that, you know, he's not right himself. Because what this manager has done has lost him 50 measures of oil and 20 measures of wheat. And that's a lot. Now, it's interesting because what this man was doing is really not of any interest in terms of, you know, returning the debt to his master, but really to feather his own nest, to make sure that he has something to look forward to when he's sacked. However, he is commended. The Lord commended the unjust steward. That's really strange, because he had done wisely. And then Jesus said, for the children of this world are in their generation wiser than the children of light. And what I believe Jesus is saying here is, before we go into the tough statement of verse 9, is that the children of this world, which is the unsaved, the children of this world, those who are outside of the will of God, are in their generation wiser than the children of God. In other words, the way that they function in this case, you're going to see in verse 9 in a moment, in defending for their future, many of the children of light are not doing so in defending and preparing for their future. Okay, we see that a little bit more in verse 9, because verse 9 has caused a lot of controversy. And Jesus said, and I say unto you, so Jesus is now speaking, make to yourselves friends. This is really fascinating. And I say unto you, make to yourselves friends of mammon of unrighteousness, that when ye fail, they may receive you into everlasting habitation. It's interesting, actually, that statement, because, you know, it's really one of major concern in terms of what is Jesus saying. Is Jesus commending, you know, unrighteous mammon and so on, and that we should do like what this steward have done? You know, is that what Jesus is saying? Well, I want to read this as well in the good news. You know, I love to do that. Verse 9. And Jesus went on to say, and so I tell you, make friends for yourself with worldly wealth. Okay? So that when it gives out, you will be welcome in the eternal home. You see that? And that's the word that's used, the eternal home. That's a really interesting. So we'll come back to that shortly. Let me go to the easy version. I tell you, use the worldly things you have now to make friends for later. That's what the servant did. Then when those things are gone, you will be welcome into a home that lasts forever. That lasts forever. You gotta get my explanation in a moment. I wanted to do that just to make sure that you see what the verse is saying. Now, verse 9. There are certain clues, I believe, in this verse that will enable us to understand what Jesus is saying. Jesus is not saying that we must be unrighteous and do unrighteous deeds like this particular man, so that we would have an everlasting habitation like what he was doing. But he's using that example of what the man did to speak to us as to how we ought to operate in terms of our future. And I want to get this. I want to say this again because I think that is significant. Let me say it again. Jesus is not telling us to do exactly what this man has done in doing unrighteously. Okay? So that we can get favors. But Jesus is using the example of what this man did to make a spiritual point. I just really want to get that across. Let me say it again. Jesus is using what this man did in being clever in his affairs and saying, let me use that story of that what that man has done to make a point to you, my disciples, who is addressing, as to how you can receive everlasting habitations. Okay. Now, there are clues in this verse, and the first clue I want to look at is everlasting habitation. Because everlasting habitation is speaking about heaven. It's speaking about the result and the benefit that you will get if you do what I'm about to tell you to do. If you do it in this, take the concept of what this unjust steward did, and let's use it now from a spiritual standpoint for us here in the 21st century. Everlasting habitation, our heavenly home, is our goal, where we will be for billions and billions of years and enjoying that everlasting habitation. I think one of the translators, I think it's Good News Bible, made mention of eternal home. That was one of the reasons why I wanted to read that. I think the other verse says eternal dwellings. Now, just go back a little bit. What this man was doing, he was securing, he had wanted to secure his future. Jesus is saying, I want you to secure your future. Pastor Elijah, welcome, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. So Jesus is saying, I want you to secure your everlasting dwelling place, your heavenly home, your eternal habitation or dwelling. That's a clue that we need to look. There's another clue that I see is when ye fail is an interesting phrase, because the things of this world will fail. You know, when you fail, they may receive you into everlasting habitation. So Jesus is saying, I say unto you, make to yourselves friends of the mammon of unrighteousness. Jesus refers to the wealth of this world as the mammon of unrighteousness. It is the mammon of this world, as it were, and use it. In other words, what Jesus is saying, rather than do what the unjust steward is doing, and he's doing unrighteous, use your wealth to help others. Use your wealth that God has given you to help others. You say, it's interesting because it's interesting. I want to show you a verse, actually. Let me show you a verse that may help. I think it's Proverbs 19. I think I did look at that recently. It's interesting, this verse that Solomon mentioned. And it says here, he that has pity upon the poor lendeth unto the Lord. And this is one of the most amazing verses I've ever found when we talk about financial shrewdness and so on. It really is amazing. He that has pity. Let's look at that word pity, verse 17. He that has pity on the poor. What do we mean by have pity? One who is merciful unto the poor. You see, these are terms that could be used. You know, make supplication, it says here. There's a give. You see that? Grant, be gracious. You see all those terms? So the person that gives to the poor, the person that helps the poor out, whether it be financial, whether it be in time, whether it be in these things, is really amazing. I want to show you something which I find really phenomenal, is that there are some people that they are just so pitiful on the poor. It could be a poor person in the sense that they're not poor physically, financially, but they are poor in suffering. In other words, they're suffering a lot. They're going through a great deal of pain and agony over a situation. And you're just there for them. You're having pity upon them. You are giving to them. You are showing favor to them. You are being merciful to them. You are helping them out. You're making supplication for them. You're there for those individuals. You're really taking all that you have to help that individual to get through. And so you're having pity on the poor. Doesn't have to be just poor financially, but it could be poor in other words. The person may have poor health and need your assistance and help. And so you are showing pity on that poor person. You see that here? You're showing pity on that poor person. Now, what the Lord is saying here is that when you do that, you are lending to the Lord. That is remarkable. And let me say this as well. When we go out of our way to help somebody without looking for any return, that is truly one of the most powerful things in the universe. To be able to reach out to somebody and help them in their time of need, and you're not looking for nothing in return. And what's more interesting, the people that you're helping is not members of your family. You don't even know them, and so on. There is something that happened to me some years ago that I will never forget. I just can never forget it, no matter how long I live. It just sticks out to me so evidently. And what it was, I was on my way to church with the children in the car, but it was raining and we had a major flood at a particular location. So when I came to that location, I saw the water and I wondered whether I could drive through it. And I saw other cars going through it. And I thought to myself, if those cars can go through it, surely my car can go through it. And as I was going through it, the car stopped. The car just stopped right in the middle of the water. And the children are in the car, and I said, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy, there's water coming up through the flooring." And I thought, oh my gosh, what do I do? I'm stuck. I have no idea what to do. All of a sudden, there was some white youth in a truck behind me, pushing my car over to the side. I'll never forget that. You know, and I looked at that. It may be a very simple act of kindness, a simple act of, you know, having pity on me in my poor state. Well, I've never forgotten that. They were all white. They didn't have to do it, but they did. I don't know who they are. I don't know where they are and how they're doing, but I've always prayed, you know, God have mercy on them for helping me out of a sticky situation. It may seem simple to somebody else, but to me it was a big issue. And so we ought to reach out to others who are poor among us, poor in spirit, poor in health, poor financially, poor in their relationships, poor, having lack. That's what poor means. And when we do that, we are lending to the Lord. And notice what he says next. And that which you have given God is going to pay you back. That's why Jesus made mention that when you throw a party, don't invite those who can invite you. That's exactly what we do. When we have a wedding, we invite those who can invite us. We don't invite the people Jesus said we should invite. He said invite those who can't invite you. But we don't do that. We invite those who can invite us. We invite those who can bring us a gift. Generally speaking, that's how we operate. But there is a difference when we reach out to the poor, when we take our substance. And this is what Jesus is saying. You want to secure your future. You want to secure everlasting habitation. Take what you have. Take the unrighteous mammon that you have. Take that which you have and help your friend. Help those in need. Support those that are lacking. Like what Sister Elaine says, when we do good to others, God will always follow you and God will bless us in abundance. And this is exactly what this verse is really saying, is that God will bless you. But one of the things I want to conclude by saying in this is that reach out to people without looking for anything in return. It's one of the most beautiful things I can ever imagine, is reaching out to people who cannot reach out to you. I think of a statement Jesus made when he said, when I was in prison, you visited me. When I was sick, when I was naked, when I was hungry. Because he said, when you did it to the least of these, my brethren, you did it also unto me. To be able to reach out to help somebody without looking for anything in return is going to be one of the greatest pleasures I've ever come across. And I'm sure many of us online here have lots of testimonies that we can give of people that we have reached out to, that we have assisted, that we have helped, who couldn't help themselves. I think of those, who visit people in prison, those who befriend people who are living alone or lonely or widows, and reaching out to helping somebody who is in need is one of the greatest things. Not looking back for anything in return, but just looking to help somebody who is in need. And I want to say strongly, look around you. Look around you. Jesus said, the poor you will always have with you. The poor will always be with you. And therefore it is our responsibility to help those we can. Now, let me say this. You can't help everybody. And you're not supposed to help everybody. But help the one that's in your reach. Do the best you can. And I say unto you, make to yourselves friends of the mammon of righteousness, that when ye fail, when you pass, when you move from this world, you may be received into everlasting life. Look at the principle of what this man was doing that made him so shrewd or wise in his operation. He was looking out for his future. He was looking out for his benefit. Jesus is saying, look out for your future and your everlasting dwelling. But this is how you do it in this sense. Reach those who are in need. I like what Jesus said in verse 10. He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much. And he that is unjust in the least is unjust also in much. And that is so true. If you're unfaithful in £1, you will be unfaithful in 1,000,000. It follows so accurately what Jesus is saying. If you're unfaithful in that which is little, you will be unfaithful in that which is much. But if you're faithful, be faithful in that which is least. It's interesting because going back to stewardship, and I mentioned before that a steward is one who manages another person's property, finances, and affairs. And the reality of the situation is really, really clear that you don't own anything. All that you have has been given to you by God for you to use wisely. So everything in your possession is not yours. When you die, you will not take any of those things with you, because you have to leave them here. So what is being said here is use your gifts, use your talents, use your ability, use your resources to help others out. That will in turn help you out in the long run. Things will fail. It's not going to last forever. Things will fail. It will come to naught eventually. If therefore you have not been faithful, verse 11, in the unrighteous mammon, who will commit to your trust the true riches? Think about what Jesus is saying. If for that reason, that's what the word therefore means. Therefore means you need to look at what was there before. If therefore you have not been faithful in the unrighteous mammon, you see what he calls the unrighteous? You're not being faithful with the resources you've got. He calls it the unrighteous mammon. You got to be faithful in the unrighteous mammon. You see what he's called unrighteous mammon? If you're not being faithful with it, who will commit to you, to your trust, the true riches? Well, if I'm not faithful, right, in my dealings, then I won't be trusted at all. And, trust is such a big issue. It's such an important one as well. Because if you can't be trusted, it's really difficult. If you're in a relationship and you can't be trusted, it makes it very difficult, to maintain that relationship, because you just can't be trusted. Sometimes we blame the other person and say that they're insecure. Why don't we blame the person who is causing us to be insecure? The one who is doing the dirty dealings, as it were. So we need to be faithful. We need to prove ourselves faithful. Faithful. And I like that term, actually, because I did define faithfulness before. And I use the term, faithfulness entails exhibiting loyalty, being trustworthy, standing firm in challenges, being honest, being reliable, being able to fulfill your obligations, or better still, keeping your word. You see, let me explain again. If you tell me something and you did the opposite, I cannot trust you. Because your word is no good. And if your word's no good, you're no good. That's why we say that God is faithful. How do we know that? Because he keeps his word. One of the reasons why the world is in the mess it's in is because of God's faithfulness. God said, in the day you eat of this tree, you will surely die. And so God, when man and woman sinned against him, he was faithful to his word, and he kept his word. And that's the reason why the world is in the mess it's in today. God's faithfulness. Because God could have said, all right, I'm going to give you guys a second chance. Don't do it again. But God's faithfulness to his word is really devastating. So it's important then for us to be faithful in keeping our words. So, you said something to me? I'm going to hold you to that. I'm going to hold you to it. I really am. And that's just the way I am. But interestingly, you can be faithful and yet unwise. You don't manage things well. You don't do things correctly. You don't do it properly. But you're faithful. But you're not wise. That's why Jesus asked the question in Luke 12. Who then is that faithful and wise steward, whom his Lord shall make ruler over his household to give them their portion of meat in due season? Who is that faithful and wise steward? So Jesus is saying, if you haven't been faithful in the unrighteous mammon, talking about the finances of this world, who will commit to you the true riches? And if you have not been faithful, Jesus is continuing the saga, as it were, and repeating himself over and over. And if you have not been faithful in that which is another man's, who shall give you that which is your own? This is an interesting statement, actually, isn't it? Verse 12 really is an interesting statement. And, how faithful are you with another person's property? I'll give you a little scenario of something that I've noticed. I noticed that when a person is, I remember when I first bought a Chrysler. I bought a 7-seater for the family, a Chrysler car. It was just under £30,000. And I remember driving it out the showroom that particular day. I can't remember what day of the week it was. And I was driving it with such care. I mean, it was remarkable. When I came, to certain places, I would stop, I would slow down, let other cars through, didn't take the risk just in case it gets scratched and all of that. I was looking after it with such delicacy and care. But I noticed there was a difference when I hired a car from, say, Enterprise. I noticed I'm not driving it with the same care. I'm not driving it with the same, let's call it detail, as it were. So what tends to happen is many of us may look after what is our own better than we look after what's another man's. Does that make sense? And I have to realize is that, Errol, you got to change this. You got to change this. This is not the right way to behave. In actual fact, you should treat other people's property better than you treat your own. And that's what I began to do. Because it's important to recognize, as I mentioned before, that you are a steward. Let me say it again. You are a steward, and everything in your possession belongs to somebody else. It belongs to the Creator. And therefore you ought to manage it with care and love. So if you have not been faithful in that which is another man's, who shall give you that which is your own? So God has given us so much. If you remember, I spoke about this before in terms of the estate that God has given us. And I want to remind you of what God has given you to look after. These are the things that God has given you to manage. I made up a memory aid so I could remember what they are when I don't have my paperwork with me. So what is it that God has given us to manage, to look after? everything in your care, your family, and all relationships that you have. And some of us, we've got hundreds, if not hundreds, of different relationships in our local churches around the country and so on. Your spirit, your soul, and your body, it's your responsibility to manage. Your thoughts, your words, and your actions, yours to manage. Your attitude, your skills, and your knowledge, yours to manage. Your time, your talent, and your treasure, yours to manage. Your treasure being your finances. Anything you put your name to, a contract, a wedding, whatever you put your name to be a godparent, you're responsible for them. And finally, for those of you who are Christians, just to throw one more in 1 Corinthians chapter 4, 1 and 2, you are stewards of the mysteries of God. Whatever God has revealed to you, you become a steward of that. And therefore, if you do not manage well what has been given to you, you will lose everything. This is the idea of Luke chapter 12. You will be taken and given to somebody else who will now manage you. And then Jesus said, no servant can serve two masters. For either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. Now, let's look at mammon so that we are absolutely clear what we're talking about here in verse 13. And I look at the Good News Bible first, and it refers to money. Okay? Let's look at it in the Hebrew word, and this is the word here. So that's the word mammonas, figuratively wealth. Okay, that is, we refer to it as money, but it's to do with wealth. Okay, figuratively wealth. Now, most people translate it as money. Now, let me say this quite clearly. Money is not evil. Okay? Money is not evil. Money is not evil. In fact, that's what we spend most of our life working for, isn't it? Is money. So we can pay our bills. So we can do various things. So there's nothing wrong with money. We know that. It's the love of money that is the problem. So you cannot serve money, serve wealth, serve riches and things like that. It's great to have riches, but don't serve it. Because there are those who put their trust and their confidence in their finances because they've got enough. They've got a lot of money that could take care of them and their family for the rest of their life. And that's great. That's great to know. Now Jesus told of a parable, told of a parable of a young man. Let me see if I could find that parable. I'm not sure if it's 12 or 13. Yeah, the parable of the rich fool. I think this is the one. Let's check. Well, the one that I was specifically looking for is to do with the guy who came to Jesus and asked Jesus, what may I do to inherit eternal life? I think that was the one I was looking for. Let me see if I could find that one. I think that was Luke. Yeah, Luke 18:8. That's the one. He asked Jesus, what shall I, what is it now? Let me see. Yeah, I think it's this one. A certain ruler asked him, saying, Good master, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? In verse 18. And Jesus said, Why callest thou me good? None is good like God. Thou knowest the commandment. And he told him, Obey the commandment. And he said, All these I have kept from my and distribute among the poor, and thou shalt have treasures in heaven. You see this point? Right in line with what we're talking about tonight. Sell all that thou hast, distribute unto the poor, and thou shalt have treasures in heaven. And come follow me. And when he heard this, he was very sorrowful, for he was very rich. And when Jesus saw that he was very sorrowful, he said, Hardly shall they that have riches enter into the kingdom of God. It's not saying that rich people. And this statement here is really remarkable. All right, let's get back to our key text, which is Luke chapter 16. I didn't think we would be able to cover two parables. I'm happy to just do one tonight. I'll just come back to summary in a moment. Just want to check the chat room just to make sure. Luke 12:21. Thank you, Pastor Catherine. Let's have a quick look at that. Luke 12:41. I think I remember that verse. Did you say Luke 12:21? So is he that lay up treasure for himself and is not rich towards God. And that is so powerful, Mommy. Thank you so much for that. It's I always say to the seniors in Wembley, look, enjoy your wealth that you've gained over the years. Enjoy it. Go on holiday, go on a cruise, spend some of the money on you. Don't leave all of it for your children to fight over, because that's exactly what they're going to do anyway. Fight and argue and waste some of your money in court fees. That's exactly what's going on in the black community at the moment. Let me show you the picture that I see, and you may find it interesting. A lot of the, let's call it the Windrush generation, that era that came into the West Indies, they were very clever. They may not have been the most educated in the world, but they were very educated in certain ways. They were very, very educated. Clive said he can't hear, and let me know if anybody else can't hear. I think that's someone could put a chat messages telling Clive that he needs to reboot. Ask him to go out and come back in. Chris Allen, how you doing, sir? Hope all is well. Good to have you on board tonight. No, I just lost my train of thought, what I was saying. So someone could remind me what I was just saying. I just forgot my train of thought. I saw you, Chris. I forgot what I was saying. Someone could remind me. If not, I will go on to another thought. I just can't remember what I was talking about. Welcome again, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Great to have you guys with us. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Really do appreciate that. So now that I forgot what I was saying, I'm going to go into a different point unless someone can hear me. I was asking someone to put a message in the chat room telling Clive to go out and come back in. If he can't hear me. I was cutting in and out. Oh. Let me Claudette Fletcher, thank you. You're a gem. Yeah, I was talking about the Windrush generation. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Now, one of the things I've noticed as a pastor, and I come across this a lot, is that that generation was very clever in, buying property. And a lot of them have finished paying for that property. And the property is way over $500,000, in some cases over £1,000,000. And what we're finding now is that the children are fighting over it. And I have been to so many funerals where sometimes a brother or a sister don't come to the funeral because they're in fighting, they're arguing, they're not talking to each other because mommy or daddy has left a wealth of money behind, and there are disagreements over it, even though there is a will, or maybe there is an attorney set up and all kind of stuff. Still there is a lot of fighting going on among families, and that is really, really sad. So many cases that I know of that are ongoing, current at this very moment in time. Families just can't agree on the wealth that that generation has left behind. And what I said to our seniors is, spend some of that money on you. Have some fun. Go on a cruise. Have you ever been in a cruise? Well, listen to this. If you've never been on a cruise, take my advice. Go on one. You will enjoy it. I was on my 60th cruise, and my uncle Albert, joined us. And I was so glad that he could join us. And we were just sitting around, just chatting around. I think it was breakfast or lunch. And I said, Uncle, is this your first cruise? And he laughed at me. He laughed. He said, no, this is my 13th. I said, Uncle, what are you saying? He said, yeah, this is my 13th cruise. And I must say, oh my goodness. I think it was the pandemic, that came, I think, a year or two later, that really messed up my cruise journey. But I tell you, I'm absolutely in love with cruise. I think cruise is amazing, especially the ship that I was on. I think it was called, I can't even remember what the ship is called now. I don't even remember what the ship is called. Symphony of the Sea. That's it. I remember it. Symphony of the Sea. I think it was a new ship at the time. Massive ship. It was just incredible. Just before I go back to summing up, I remember I was on the ship. We had just done the security checks, and we, went to the room to unpack and to just, chill out for a little while. Now, the ship is supposed to leave at 6. It's now 7 o'clock, and I'm wondering, how come the ship hasn't left? They announced it's supposed to be 6. It's 7 o'clock, and the ship hasn't left yet. What's going on? So I met this gentleman as I was walking. I said, sir, do you know what time the ship is leaving? The man laughed. He said, the ship left an hour ago. I said, oh my goodness. I was expecting the ship to be kind of, rocking side by side type of things, or to give me at least a little indication that we were in sea. Not a single movement. Can you believe that? I mean, the technology of the day is remarkable. How they can build such a ship to stay on top of water and not sink. I'm amazed. Anyway, let's summarize. If there are any questions, please let me know. Yes, Sister Jennifer, the Windrush generation they were clever. They were really clever. They were smart. And may God richly bless them, those who have gone and those who are still alive. We do have a lot of our elders who are unable to come out of their homes. They're ill. But thank God for them, and the contribution that they made to British society is just phenomenal. Phenomenal. And, I went to see this play On Sunday, I was taken there. Someone took me and a group of other people there. It's called Jamaica Love at the Beck Theatre. I mean, that was truly amazing, actually. I was blown away with how excellent that was. It's going to be in the West End, I'm told. I'd like to take my wife there if she will come with me. But anyway, that's for another day. All right, let's summarize this amazing parable. Here we find a very rich man. How rich, we're not sure. But he's rich enough to employ a steward to look after his property, his affairs. And it so happened that the rich man heard of the steward's wasting of his goods. So he summoned him. He called him. He said, "How is it that I hear this of you? Give an account of thy stewardship, for thou mayest be no longer steward." And I think that's the correct thing to do. You know, you hear something, check it out, because it may not be true. I mentioned before, a manager came to me to accuse another manager, and when I saw the evidence, it looks as if this man is guilty. It turned out the man was innocent. So it's good to, you hear something about something, check it out, investigate. So he says, give an account. Then the steward said within himself, "My goodness, what shall I do? For my Lord taketh away from me the stewardship. I can't dig, and I'm ashamed to beg." Now that's a dilemma to be in. I mentioned before, look after your pension, look after your old age, look after it. You know, I'm in a church. I love the church, but the church is not in a position to look after me when I've left. You know, so the interesting thing about that is, I do so much for the church, but I'm not looking for the church to look after me because the church can't do it. The church is not in a position. Now, if I was in the Roman Catholic Church, yes, I think that, or the Methodist Church, yeah. You know, I was doing something once with a Methodist minister, and at the time, the Church of God of Prophecy was going through a financial crisis of around, a few millions. And I was doing the training for this Methodist church, and the minister said to me and to my colleague that was with me, Richard Trotman, he says, our problem, and I couldn't believe what I heard. He says, the problem of the Methodist church is that we've got too much money. I laughed. I looked at Richard and I thought to myself, wow, because the problem that Church of God of Prophecy was experiencing was we didn't have enough money. And their problem is they've got too much money. Can you imagine the difference of the on the different spectrum? One has got too much money and it's causing problem. One don't have any money and it is causing problems. So it doesn't matter whether you have money or you don't. You're going to have problems. That's an interesting factor. So, give an account. But I can't beg and I can't dig. I don't know why I can't dig. To dig, come on. This is a top manager looking after his manager's wealth. Digging is not for him. Surely neither begging. So he said, I think I'm resolved what to do then. For when I am put out of the stewardship, they may receive me into their houses. So this is what Jesus was picking up on. You see what I'm saying? He's using the parable to make a point to his disciples. So this man is thinking of his future now. He should have been doing that long ago. But now he's thinking of his future when he's at rock bottom. So what does he do? He called all, I want you to notice that, he called all of his master's debtors and gave them a deal that they could not resist. And the deal was so that he could, notice what he had said in verse 4, they may receive me into their houses. Because after all, that's the plan. That's the idea behind giving this offer to you. You are now obligated to put me up if I get kicked out. Now, the story doesn't tell us whether he got kicked out or not. We're not told of that, what happened. We're not told whether he was able to go into the houses of those that he made the new deal with. But that's what he did. But look at verse 8. The Lord commended the unjust steward because he had done wisely. He was wise. Why was he wise? Because he's looking out for his interest. That's what Jesus wants to pick up on. He's looking out for his future. That's the key. It's not so much about the deals that he made. He made those deals in relation to his future. Crafty, very shrewd. It's interesting, the King James used the term wisely. He did wisely. But he was robbing his employer. I mean, think about it. He's robbing his employer. He's robbing his employer. In other words, he's robbing his employer 50 measures of oil and 20 measures of wheat, so that he could use that he has now renegotiated for his betterment later. He's now, in other words, he's embezzling for his own good, for his own purpose, for his own need. I can't dig and I can't beg. I have to think of my future, and he's using a corrupt means to get to that. That's why Jesus said the children of this world are in their generation wiser than children of light, because look at the wisdom of what he's doing. The wisdom, though it's wrong, is that he's defending his future. He's protecting for his future. He's providing for his future. He's doing wrong, but he's referred to as wiser than the children of light, who ought to be protecting their future. And are you providing and protecting for your future is the key here in verse 9. And verse 9 is the complex verse that many of us have had trouble understanding. And Jesus said, and I say unto you, now Jesus is talking. And Jesus is giving advice to his disciples. Make to yourself friends of the mammon of unrighteousness, that when you fail, they may receive you into everlasting habitation, or into heavenly habitation. So Jesus is giving the indication here, look, heaven is your home. Everlasting habitation, or heavenly habitation. That's my home. That's my goal. That's my desire. That's my pursuit. That's my aim. That's my target tonight. The heavenly pursuit. And Jesus said, use your mammon. Use your wealth to help others. Make to yourself friends of the mammon of unrighteousness, that when you fail, you too. Look at what this man did. Look at how he used the resources to help another so that he can get help. Help another so he can get help. And that's why I use the verse of Proverbs 19:17. He that has pity on the poor is lending to the Lord, and the Lord will repay you. One of the greatest thing that you and I could be involved in is using what resources we have to help others. Because there is coming a time. The scripture says, the night cometh when no man can work. There's coming a time when you and I will not be able to do any more. Our time will be up. There's coming that time. The sad thing about it is that time is coming. So do all you can. And then Jesus further amplifies what he's saying. You can see that in the preceding verses. The next verses, sorry. If you have not been faithful in the unrighteous manner, who will commit to you the true riches? Be faithful in that which you have. Be faithful in that which you are in possession of. Because if you have not been faithful in that which is another man's, who will give you that which is your own? You know, faithfulness in managing what we have in our possession is the key to moving forward. It is a joy. You know, I was listening to a documentary of Elvis Presley, and it is said that Elvis Presley would from time to time just give away certain riches that he had to people that he didn't even know. And I was listening to the people who was around him watching what was going on, and they couldn't believe what he was doing. But they said when they looked at his face and saw the joy in Elvis Presley's face when he gave away those things, he said they were mesmerized. And I say that to say this. There is such a joy that one experiences when one helps somebody else who can't help you. I'm not talking about helping people who can help us. I'm talking about helping people who cannot help us back. Reaching out to people who are in need. Reaching out to people who are in prison, who are sick, who are disabled, who cannot fend for themselves. There is a joy that people are experiencing around the world that is truly remarkable. Yet God says, I'll repay you. And I say to God tonight, whether you repay me or not is not what motivates me to give it. What motivates me to give to people is the joy that I experience in just doing it. Just making someone smile, just making somebody happy, just making somebody have a meal tonight. It's a joy to help somebody. And I want to say to us that are here, reach out to somebody. Reach out to somebody who can't reach out to you. Help somebody who can't help you back. Be kind and gracious to somebody who's not able to do the same back to you. Have you ever invited someone to your event who can't invite you to theirs? In fact, they can't even have one of their own. They're so poor. Well, we have a guest list, don't we? We have it all ticked off in such a way, and we have these special guests, you know, things like that. But Jesus was in a different league indeed. So the whole point of what Jesus is saying, let's look at what this man did to secure his future. That's what he was trying to do, is to secure his future. He's using what was at his fingertips, what was in his possession, to secure his future. Well, I want to secure my future too. And my future is everlasting habitation. And I need to use what I have, like this man did, but righteously, for the betterment of others. May the Lord bless you and keep you tonight. And thank you so much for joining us. Really do appreciate everyone who's here. Don't forget, if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to address those. I will be back here tomorrow. It's Wednesday. So I'll probably be here with some fun stuff, because I will be joined next week by my 3 colleagues. But tomorrow, if I make it tomorrow, will be some fun stuff. If I make it, I want to share with you some stuff that's going on in the in the AI world that many of us are not keeping up to date tabs with. But that's if I make it tomorrow. I plan to be here. I've got to go down to church tomorrow. We've got our seniors club. Looking forward to it always on a Wednesday. And hopefully I'll get back in time to join with you. So thank you all for joining me tonight. Really do appreciate it. Just want to check just to make sure that I don't have any. To Anne-Marie Blair, how you doing? Thanks for joining us, Anne-Marie. Give me a call sometime, please. All right. Nope, I don't have anything here. And blessings to everyone. Thank you so much. Well, I'm going to take my flight at this particular junction. And once again, thanks to all of you for joining me tonight. It really is a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you so much for joining us, and wish you all the best. Let me just see. I see a question, so I can't go yet. Let me go to that question, and just to make absolutely certain that I read it properly. Can you do stuff and chat? I'm not so sure if I understand your question, Sister Juliet. Rephrase that for me. I'm not so sure what you mean. Can I do stuff on chatlet? What do you mean by chatlet? L-E-T-T. L-E-T. Just reword that for me, unless you're saying the same. You're saying exactly that. Just let me know what you mean by that. Don't forget, as I mentioned before, if there are any questions, I will stay here and chat. LBT. What's I'm still lost a bit. Chat. Let me see what you mean. I'm not. What do you mean chat LBT? You mean chat GPT? Is that what you mean? Chat GPT? Is that what you mean? Let's let me know. Do you mean chat GPT? You got chat, I think, LBT. And do you mean chat GPT? G as in golf. Just trying to make sure I understand the question before I can respond to it. Sorry, I may have got it. Yeah, so can you do stuff on chat GPT? Oh yeah, definitely. Tomorrow, yes. If I'm here tomorrow, I'm not 100% certain I'll be here tomorrow, but just to say, I think there's a lot of concerns people have over chat GPT, as to why they may not embrace it. But let's just put it this way. There are over 100 million people using ChatGPT at the moment, and that's growing by the hour. Over 100 million people using it at the moment. It is probably one of the biggest use case at the moment on the internet. It is taking over without a shadow of a doubt. It's not even you know, a guesswork on that. That's what's happening in reality right now as you and I speak. There are people doing miraculous things on it at the moment. I'll just see whether or not I can give you an example just quickly. That's if it will allow me to. But as I said before, there are people who are doing remarkable things on it at the moment, and I mean remarkable things. And it is incredible what's going on at the moment. I don't think I'll be able to do it the way I want to do it at the moment. But what I would strongly recommend basically is that just check it out. Check it out, have a look at it, and see whether or not that's something that you would want to be involved in. The reality is that whether we like it or we don't, it's here to stay. We can't change it. It's not going away. Just like the mobile phone didn't go away, the laptop, the computers didn't go away, then ChatGPT is not going anywhere. It's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Once upon a time we had a Apple phase, the company Apple, Steve Jobs and so on. And that just took over and changed a lot of people's lives. Now ChatGPT is the new phase. It's a new fad, if you like. And there's nothing that we can do to stop it. It's over 100 million people. Now, that's a lot of people. Over 100 million people are using it. So that is something. So I strongly recommend, therefore, that this is something that you may want to just look at, investigate, and ask yourself the question, is this something that I want to do? But make sure, first of all, that you know about it. It's that you do your due diligence. In other words, do your studies around it. That's what I strongly recommend to everyone who is involved. How often do I use ChatGPT? Somebody asked me that question. I use ChatGPT every single hour almost. I use it to help me, to assist me, to make my church life that much more easier. I use it for multitude of things, and it's the best assistant I've ever had. Let me give you a classic example of something. I write a book, right? So I've written 5. And it's the process that I use is very extensive one, and it's really a lot of things I do to make it work. But the good news now is that I can do the book by cutting the time, by cutting 80% out. That's what ChatGPT do. So if I was to write another book today, I can cut out 90%, 80%, 90% of the things that I was doing before. So I can cut all of that out. That's the fun thing about it, actually. I can do all of that very relatively easy. So I can do that. I don't know if there's any specific question anybody may have, in regards to this. If you got a specific question, then that might be helpful, and I could approach it that way if anybody has a specific question. Because I may or may not be here tomorrow, so if you want to ask a question, and that would be great, and I could address that. For those of you that's not clear or not sure, you have a question you want to ask me, go ahead. I'm here till midnight if I have to be. And just go ahead and ask the question if you want. And I will be glad to assist you with that. If not, then I will I would leave it until tomorrow. I was hoping I'm still trying actually to see if I could show you a case point, but for some reason, the facilities I normally use to do it is not showing up. Oh, it's showed up all of a sudden. I don't know why. Let's see now. Let's see. All right, let me just share my. This is interestingly how at the moment ChatGPT looks. So you have the paid version, which I use, which is ChatGPT 4, and then the ChatGPT 3.3. That's the free one. So you can use the free one to do whatever you want. But I generally use the ChatGPT. So I'm going to give it a prompt and see if it works. Give me an image of an African princess in a serenic background with lions watching as she sings her song. Make sure it's very sunny and beautiful scenery, lots of colors. Right, so all I've done basically is given it a particular instruction as to what to do. I'm trying to create an image here and to see whether or not this image suits my particular taste of what I asked it to do. So I've asked it to give me an image of an African princess in a serenic background with lions watching as she sings her song. And look at that. This is what it gives me. I think this is absolutely remarkable, to tell you the honest truth. Now, I may not necessarily like her facial expression. Maybe I like it, maybe I don't. But I mean, this is amazing. I mean, this is literally amazing. It's done exactly as I have said. I mean, this is remarkable. And then what it does, it gives me the instruction or the prompt that it eventually create. An African princess in a serenic and sunny setting stands amidst a beautiful, colorful landscape. She's elegantly dressed. I mean, this is just remarkable. And I could do a lot more with it. I just love this. This is an amazing picture, actually. Amazing. So these are some of the things that one can do with it. You know, you can create your own pictures. You can actually then take this picture and you can download it. This is what I'm doing right now. I'm downloading it. So I'm gonna just go and check to see if I've got the download ready. So I'm just going to check if the download is there. Let me just see. And here is the picture. Here is the picture. And I want to show you some other pictures that I have done. There's one that I really want to use, which is this particular one. I'm thinking of using this for a book cover. And this is really, truly amazing. These are other ones that I have done as well. And it's just to show you, I mean, these artwork is just truly remarkable. Absolutely amazing, actually. Truly, truly amazing. I mean, I just love them. And these are things that now exist. I don't have to, when I wrote one of my books, I employed someone to do some drawing for me. I don't need that anymore. I could do it myself just by giving ChatGPT certain instructions as to exactly what to do. So I could give it a particular prompt. I could change the prompt and I could do something else. And this is just from an artistic point of view. If you're into art, that is, and so on. I'm going to ask it for an instruction. So let's say I want to put this on my website as an example. Give me the website code that I can put on my WordPress website showing this photograph So what I'm doing now is I'm asking it to give me some coding. And let me see if it does give me the coding for this. And also what I'm looking for specifically is the actual HTML code. And there it is. It's writing the code for me now. I mean, this is really remarkable. So I don't even have to write the code myself. The code is now there, and it gives me the exact instruction as to what to do. Log into your WordPress website, go to media, upload the image file. Once uploaded, click on the image in the media file, copy the URL from the right hand side, go to the page or post where you want the image to appear, switch to the text editor, and insert this piece of code. And then I would put the URL right here. That's where the URL will be put once it's uploaded. Once I get the URL, it's giving me a step-by-step instructions. And how long did it take? It was seconds. Are you with me? This is what I'm saying to you, that it's a game changer. It's what the term I normally use. It's it's a no-brainer. I mean, it's given me the actual HTML code. I could copy it here, and once I put this in my website and put right here the URL for that particular photo, it will show up on my website. And it gives me how to customize the appearance and so on. So you can see how brilliant this thing is. It's just amazing. And it just goes on and on and on. It's just remarkable. Let's do one more thing. Let's say you want to write a book. I'm going to give it instruction. I wish to write a children's book, really comical, lots of pictures and so on. I'm lost as to how to go about this. Could you give me some ideas, please, as to what I could do in regards to my children's book, please? So let's see what it does. Let's see what ChatGPT tells me about what I can do. So it says, certainly, Pastor Errol, writing a children's book, especially a comical one, is a delightful endeavor. Here are some steps and ideas to guide you through this process. And first of all, it's absolutely accurate. Identify the age group that I want to actually, write to. Is it toddlers? Is it preschoolers? Early elementary? This will influence the book's language, complexity, and the themes. Choose a theme or message. Develop the characters. Craft the storytelling or the storyline. And it tells me more. Incorporate repetition and rhyme. It's giving me the entire thing. I mean, this is really amazing. Plan the illustrations. So in these illustrations, for example, you can begin to craft your own images like this one here. So you could begin to say, well, right, what type of characters do I want? But it's given me all what I need to do, and it's given me 10 particular things that I need to do to write the book. I can say now, give me an outline for this book, and I want to call this book Comedy for Children. So, comedy for children. I just call it something, comedy for children, whatever. So I wanted to give me an outline for this book. What are the potential outline? I can adjust this if I want, or I can keep to what it says. I mean, this is really remarkable. It's giving me an outline, the introduction, and then the inciting the incident, and so on. It's just amazing. And look, all of what I have done in less than seconds, in less than 5 minutes, I think. It's just really amazing so far what we've done. And, this is truly truly amazing. So it's given me certain information that I can use. I can adjust it. I could fine tune it if I wish. It's really up to me now. But it's given me some really amazing, amazing thing. All right, I want to do one last thing. The title of the book is Comedy for Children. Give me a prompt that I can put into DALL-E to create a book cover for my new book. So I'm asking it to give me a prompt that I can use, that I can put into things. So it's saying create a whimsical and colorful book cover for a children's book titled Comedy for Children. The cover should be vibrant and all that kind of stuff. I like that. I think that is amazing. Right, let's take that and let's put it here and let's press the button and see if it gives me an image that I like. Now, if I don't like the image it gives me, I can ask it to generate more images until I find the one I like. If I see one that I like, but I need it to be adjusted, I can tell it specifically what I want it to do in order for it to give me the output that I really want. You can see it's spinning here. It's creating that image of this book right here. That's the image that I want it to create. And look at that. Ah, that is amazing. Comedy for children. That is remarkable. I think this is amazing. I don't think I need to do anything else to this. It's a pity I'm not doing a book in comedy for children, isn't it? Oh my God, that is amazing. That is fantastic. That is amazing. Yeah, I like that. I tell you something that I just don't have the time to work in it, but it's amazing that, I've written a book, right? And I put it in here, my book. And let me see if I could find my book and see if I can find it. I'm supposed to be Errol's book. So I've written a book called Pursuing Excellence by Errol Williams. This is the book here. I think this is the book here. So I uploaded my book into ChatGPT. And I said to ChatGPT, listen to this carefully. I said to ChatGPT, I want my book to convert it into a game. If those of you that may know my book, it's called Pursuing Excellence. So it's now looking at my book. It's uploading it. And then I could ask it to give me a summary of my book, give me some of the key features of my book, or to convert this book, my book that I've written, convert it into a game. And it's given me an amazing game, actually. I'm actually thinking whether or not I want to go ahead with it. But it's just phenomenal. It's just phenomenal. And I think I like this cover, actually. I think this cover is amazing. Comedy for children. I think that is amazing. Pity I'm not doing a comedy book for children. I think I would like this a lot. Incredible. So now my book is in. I can do what I like now. I could say whatever I want to. And it's interesting because I speak into it. So I could type as an example, but I choose to set it up in such a way that I speak into it. So it's less time that I have to actually do it in. But it's just amazing. And you can see over here, I messed up that one. You can see over here all the different things that I've been working on, all different things over here. In fact, I did some studies on the Old Testament, and you can see how much, look at that, how much information I did on the Old Testament. Look at that. Look at that. I mean, that is incredible. And the good news is, if I wanted to share if I wanted to share it with you, I can actually just copy that link to that particular thread, copy the link, and just send that to you. So I wanted to place the name of these Bible characters in chronological order, and these ones, and then it gave me the list and the reasoning behind it. What is the Old Testament conquest of? What is, I sometimes I don't even correct my own mistake. What is the Old Testament conquest of Canaan? Then it tells me. List all the names of the judges in the book of Judges and list the chapter and verse. And these were all the judges. It does that for me. How many judges were there? There were 12 individuals describing judges, and Othniel was the first one. Samson was the last one. Deborah was the only female judge, for example. List all the kings in the northern kingdom. It lists that for me and give me all the chapter and verses of it. List all of the kings in the southern kingdom. It does that as well. All of this is done in seconds, brothers and sisters, and I'm doing research on Bible. It's just amazing. I just thought I would share that with you. Well, I think that's it, unless anybody has any other question. If I'm here tomorrow, then I'll tell you something as well. What ChatGPT, what they have done is really remarkable, actually. What they have done, let me see. Let me see here. What have they done? Let me see. What they have done is something remarkable, actually. Is that they allow us to create our own GPT. So I've created one called Pursuing Excellence. This is the one I've created, and I haven't finished it yet. I haven't finished configuring it, but my book is in it, so that when someone goes to inspiring kids with personal development skills, for example, this could go into the ChatGPT store, just like you have the App Store. So I've created my own ChatGPT with my book, and I could upload my other books as well into that. So I could upload, for example, Building a Dream, which is here. So I'm going to upload that. I could upload as many files as I want. So I'm creating my own ChatGPT so other people can actually use it. So I created this particular symbol, Pursuing Excellence. I haven't put my name there yet, and so on. So it's just to show basically that you now can be a developer without any coding skills and actually help other people. And so what I put down here is Pursuing Excellence, a guide designed to teach children the art of personal development. This GPT should interact with users if it's a guiding and child in understanding and applying principles of self-improvement. Now, that's what I've got at the moment, but I will change that. I was only playing around, but it's interesting because when someone search over here now, they're actually let's say let's do it. I forgot that I've got tell me about listening skills. So what it's doing basically, it's searching the knowledge base, and it's looking for that information that I've instructed it to do. Tell me about listening skills. And it's coming out now with things from my book. This is from my book. So people can now use my book with ChatGPT to get further knowledge and information. This is really amazing, actually, as I sit here and look at you, because this is literally from my book, and it's actually working amazingly. Actually, I'm trying to get this. Right. So I'm going to ask it another question. I think it's I'm trying to see why the audio is not coming on. Give me the mnemonics for listening. Let's just do that one. I'm not so sure why it wasn't giving me the right. It could respond back to me and so on. So it's literally given the mnemonics from my book. And it's gonna come up with, are you listening? I mean, this is really remarkable. And so I could actually sell this in the ChatGPT store when it opens up the end of this month. So people are actually searching my knowledge base. This is remarkable. And this is reading it from my book. My book's over here, right? You can see them over there. It's literally reading it from the book. This is absolutely amazing. It's unbelievable. All of that from the book. And I could, go to other things. I mean, this is remarkable what's going on here. This is a game changer. I mean, this is remarkable. Oh, Lord have mercy. There are other ones here, but this is the one I created, and I could use that for myself. So I could search my own book that way, and it's only personal to me at the moment, so nobody else cannot see it. But I can make it public if I want to. And I am going to make it public. I think it's that good. So let me make it public. So other people out there will be able to find it. You can see here, Inspiring Kids with Personal Development Skills by Mr. Errol A. Williams. So it's out there now, and people will be able to use it. But they're actually looking and searching the information based on my book and so on. That is incredible. Right. I think that's it for now. I really, wow, that is amazing. That is, mind-boggling, actually. So if I'm here tomorrow, I may show you guys how I use it in my daily work. That was just showing you some of the things that's going on in the world of AI. How you can generate your own pictures, and it's just out of this world. I'm telling you, it's out of this world. So I've kept you guys up long enough. So maybe if you're here tomorrow, I will share with you some of the stuff that I do with it, and how you can make it help you, help your church. It's just amazing. The technology is there. You either use it or get left behind. Over 100 million people are using it, and lots of churches are using it to help, change, social media for the church and all kind of different things. And just one final thing. I think I was doing something recently and I was stuck. I was completely stuck. I just could not figure this thing out. And all of a sudden I went into ChatGPT and I says, well, I'm using this particular website for a particular thing. I'm completely lost. Could you give me a step-by-step approach of how to do this? I want you to do it as though I am 15 years of age. I do not understand. I'm lost. And what I couldn't believe was, within seconds, I had a step-by-step approach. And then I used the step-by-step approach and resolved the matter. I mean, it was just incredible. It's just incredible. Let's say you had some potato, some tomato, you had some pepper, you had some saltfish, and so on. You can put that in ChatGPT and say, this is all I have at the moment as the ingredients. Could you tell me what I could do with it to prepare a meal for my family? And you'd be amazed. You'd be amazed. Anyway, take care of yourself, everyone. Have a fantastic evening. I don't think there's any other questions for me, so I'm going to leave it there. Just check if there's anything on Facebook. And just to make sure that yeah, I think I'm okay. I think I can go. Yeah, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you so much. I hope you found something useful in what's been done tonight, and The Lord bless you and keep you, cause his face to shine up in you and be gracious to you. Take care of yourself and your family. Until next time, bye for now.